to try not to swear so much. How exciting is that? So that swear count is not going to be added to. I have to go. Ooh. We got hi, we have a new subscriber. No, that's Catch22 gifting a sub to Chill. You two. Unbelievable. We've just started the show and you two, we have sub wars happening in the chat. Basil Spinner gifted a sub to Harold C, and then Catch just gifted a sub to Chill Mountain 444. The current, actually we got a hype train because of that. Catch, you're still in the first place. Basil, you are silver. But can I just say, second place is pretty dang good, especially if you're my softball team, which got into the finals last night. Jay Buntrock just gifted 6 subs and goes like this in the chat, which is, I don't know what that is, but I think it's excellent. It's you saying excellent. Forsaken Fates, Cheyenne, the gambler, lack of words, Treblop. Treblop is great onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like it would make. What's the rest of that sentence? It's a word that it sounds like the sound it would make. And treblop, you know, it's something heavy going into a large body of water, right? Onomatopoeia. We're learning things. TX2L has just followed, and it's their first time chatter, saying, wait a done, asterisk, I love it. Wait a done minute. Here I am starting a book club on Twitch, so I'm hopping around to see the landscape, and Maude Garrett, who I watched on Sourcefed back in the day, has one. Welcome. I've been doing a book club for 2 years. In fact, my company that I ran for 10 years, Geek Bomb, I rebranded it to be Maude's Book Club because it was the one part of Geek Bomb that I liked the most, and so I poured all my attention into it. So that is my book club thing. It's called Maude's Book Club. We are a sci-fi fantasy online group, and we cover about 1 to 2 books every single month, and I do 2-hour live streams for the first half and second half of the big books that we choose, and I do interviews with authors. So previously we have done interviews with Pierce Brown for the Red Rising series 5 times. Dungeon Crawler Carl, we're up to book 5 for that. I've got a fun announcement for that at the end of the show. Interviewed him before, interviewed Jeff Hayes, who's the amazing narrator for that series as well. Who else have we interviewed? Andy Weir, V.E. Schwab, Patrick Rothfuss, Martha Wells.
Say TJ Clune.
TJ Clune, Gabrielle Zevin, Rebecca Ross. Cheyenne's lurking but says thank you, Jay Buntrock. A bunch of really, really cool authors. I dipped out of the book after 6 chapters, and from the comments in the pre-show, it was the right thing to do. Some people love it. No, we'll have a big chat about it. Hi, Maude. Are you okay? I was worried a bit. A little bit late this morning, but that's because everyone who's in the members chat in a Discord call, we get on early just to have a little powwow, and our conversation ran over long. They're my priority. If you want to feel like what it's like to be prioritized, join members today. We have chitty chats. Jimmy's in there going, see, I can see everyone. Carlos is in here saying, I'm doing good in my home. I was watching Never Feel, Never Fear music video by Never Obey Again rock band. I enjoyed it. There you go. You're on a 3-stream streak, by the way. Cool. Both Dungeon Crawler Carl Q&A interviews were amazing, says K Frito. We were chatting Maude's ears off. That's why she has to wear headphones. No ears in here now. They're gone. Oh, God, it's so hard to not swear. I'm already thinking of what I would say. Adam Vision asks, how's your monitor? It's on. It is on right now. Thank you very much for asking, Adam. Adam got high and sent me a game that I would like. I will be playing it this weekend.
Adam Vision sends his regards.
Unbelievable. Does he just slide into the chat and do that, or is that someone else doing that? I always think it's just him. Oh, you do that, KP Dubs? Every time Adam's mentioned, this is what goes off in the chat. This is what goes off in the chat. Is there a timer? Is there a cooldown on it?
Adam Vision sends his regards. No, I
Yeah.
had switched screens to look at the Twitch stream, and then I had to come back to Discord.
Well, I am a part of the Alienware Hive, and a lot of the time I will do giveaways, and the giveaway is a monitor. Raise your hand in the Members Plus if you've won a monitor. Boom. 2 of you, 3 of you raised your hands. 4 of you.
The one who needs a second monitor didn't. Good job, Ken. Way to
For
abstain.
reals, have 4 of you won monitors from me? Is that
No,
really true? Lisa, you've won a monitor. I thought,
said-
Lisa, you won a keyboard and a headphone. You won the monitor.
No, I won the monitor, and then I won the $500 Alienware gift card.
Yes.
Avery,
I
you
thought
won a
said
monitor?
Want.
Oh, you were just razzing. That's fun.
I thought you said want a monitor, and I was like, hell yeah, I want a monitor.
Want a monitor. Want a monitor. All right, Avery, we'll try and get you.
on my laptop. I was.
You're like, we'll try and get you to win one.
People raise their hand, so I was like, all right, I'll raise my hand to make it interesting.
I have just thrown the fear of life into Avery, who now follows instructions perfectly well. I love that. Stop trying to stop swearing. Do like in The Good Place. It's forking hilarious. It just means I have to pause a lot more. KP Dub says, I've actually won 3 books in the Discord giveaways. Oh, what else has everyone won? Daniel Darkly says, I was able to finish the book today, cutting it close to that stream time. Put your hand up if you haven't finished the book yet. 2 people, 3 people. Really, Baz, where are you up to? No shame here.
I'm on chapter 17. Granted, this is a reread, so there's stuff I'm probably remember from, like, I'll remember from the first time I read it, but the timing just didn't work this week, so I'm reading while y'all are discussing.
Got it.
When I
What are
first
you
read
eating?
it,
What are you
like,
eating?
Oh,
That sounds really good. It's
sweet Maui
I knew
onion
it.
chips.
Oh, I know that flavor so well. It's my number 2. If I were to eat and rate every single chippy flavor. Also, I say chippy. Apparently it bothers some people. Everyone's like, they're crisps or they're just chips. No, why would you say chips when you can say chippy? So my top 3 chippy flavor, salt and vinegar, Maui, sweet onion Maui. Oh, so good. And that crunch, so good. I can't say crunch either. Has to say crunch.
I was just gonna say I read all 3 books one after the other the first time around, so I have trouble remembering what details belong to which book. So I was just gonna be quiet most of the book club anyway, so that's why I'm reading.
The series that I'm really, really into, I will listen to them, boom, 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 boom. And Throne of Glass is a great example. People go, oh, did you read Empire of the Air, Air of the, and I'm like, which one's that? I know key moments that happened. I cannot tell you what book it happens in or what the title of that book is. I will be like, is it when A happens with B and then C? And it's like,
Right.
yes. I'm like, got it. So I hear you on that, and good on you for attempting to read so that you don't spoil, because that's usually my concern. KB Dub says, chippy, brecky, lolly, crunchy. You just keep being you, Maude. I did get called out from a friend recently who goes, it's like you want to say words differently and strangely. And I was like, name 3 examples. And of course, the sentence before, I was like, oh, I love these chippies. It's got a good crunch. I am the problem. The problem is me. K. Fredo said, Maud likes to spoil things. It's fun. There are times where I have read ahead because the book has been so good, and I struggle with what is it where you like discipline? I like indulging. If it's good, do it. If the book is good, keep reading. Like, who am I? Stop reading. Like, no, keep reading. My problem is 9 times out of 10, when I read ahead, I will absolutely accidentally spoil something. Well done, me. Keep It Up says, to those of you who didn't finish this book, you missed out on the pirates. Your loss. We will be going into spoiler territory. We are talking about the entire book because this is part 2. Kenzo has just followed. Hello there. Welcome to Maud's Book Club. Avery says, I've won a few digital books as well. Yeah, we're going to try and get some more giveaways happening for the last quarter of the year as well. Especially holiday time. I like giving giving things. Let's win things. Terry says, I won nothing because I'm cursed by the lottery laws of Quebec. I can't even say it properly. I went to say it like, who's the Jeopardy host that everyone loved?
Alex Trebek.
Yeah. That's it. Pirates were fun in this one, says K Frito. Unfortunately for me, says Avery, literature school made me too good at reading the assigned section. Oh, Alex Trebek is Canadian? Was he? I can't tell. Are they just nicer Canadians? Is that how you can differentiate between an American and a Canadian? The Canadians are nicer?
100%, unless you ask my Canadian friend, in which she'll say absolutely not.
Because that's the nicer answer. Humble, humility. Are you kidding me? Amazing.
I don't know. I played Call of Duty with her. She's not that nice.
No, it's not niceness. It's passive aggressiveness.
There's that.
So it's a
You think that Canadians have mastered passive aggression?
I mean,
Kate,
they did ask for their freedom.
Kate, the day you can show me passive aggression, I'll be thrilled.
I'm not a typical Canadian.
No. Why be passive when you can just shoot from the hip? Darren says polite more than actual nice, at least in Vancouver. Is it textual? Is that how we say your handle? I want to get it right. We are nicer on the surface, but we swear way more. So do I.
We also are backseat drivers with everything.
I would need an example.
Nah, see, what you want to do there is you're doing that all wrong.
So that sounds really nice.
I mean, it sounds rude to me.
That sounds rude?
Yeah.
See, what you want to do here is you're doing it wrong. Here's the actual way to do it. That sounds really helpful to me.
She literally said you did everything wrong, basically. Here's all. Let me teach you how to do it.
Yeah, that's so. Australians are inherently not offended by a lot of things. I literally heard, you're not doing things right. Would you here is how you actually do it? And I'd be like, fantastic. If I've been doing it wrong this whole time, ooh, that's embarrassing. But you're gonna tell me how to not keep embarrassing myself? Hell yeah. Nearly said fuck yeah, but I didn't, because we're not swearing this stream, are we? Whoo! Damn it. Ugh. I'm trying. I have to adjust. I have to. We're talking about not the book at all. Well, we can get into this. I can segue into this, which is a cultural discussion. Culturally, I am going to swear a lot. Culturally, we have glorified what Americans considered the worst word to say. We have casualized it and we have made it a term of endearment. So, put a scrimp on the Barbie, said Stephen. Hi, Stephen. It's been a long time since I've seen your name in the chat. Lovely to have you in here. Crikey, says Basil. Yeah, that's the C word I was talking about. That's exactly the one. Well said. It's just part of the brand. Ugh. The conversation avoids it for 30 minutes minimum. All right, well, let's get stuck into the book. We're talking about the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. Now, if you were here last week, we went into the plot of it. I'm going to go in a more plot breakdown through this. It's technically covering through 3 different lenses, different eras of the same character. We have established this now. Did I, just a reminder, who did I spoil that for last week, not knowing that was the same character? Who did I ruin this book for last week?
Well, it got spoiled in the doc because there was a breakdown in the document. So I went into the document, read the first line, and was like, oh, well, that's a spoiler, and then got out of the document. So, But then it was also talked about in chat during the club. So a couple people, I think, kind of spoiled it.
I noticed that was dropped last stream, and I thought to myself, we definitely have not read enough to determine that.
No.
And I was like, how? I don't think this conversation is a bit early. But I didn't want to interrupt the flow at the time.
Some people are brilliant. That's my bad. No. I just thought that when you have a character in present time using second person, and then you go to a younger person in third person, that to me felt like a flashback. So I immediately just married those two together. I thought Cyanide was a different character for a little bit, but then I was like, why? Why would it be? And then there were very subtle sort of things that were mentioned. And you're kind of in the world building, understanding that renaming what the name means, and names are very symbolic in this book as well. So we'll go through the plot a little bit more here. We had only read the first half of the book last week. We have read the entire book this time around, so we're going full spoilers. I have written out 19 key questions. There are some quotes as well. What's that cute little Eddie? That's such a little cute emoji. I ate a dog though. That needs context. There was an emoji and it flew past my face. The emoji was of a dog. I nom-nommed. It's actually, to be fair, it was trying to nom-nom me as well. So why did the mouth stay open? Because it's doing this. Eddie, can you do those other ones again? It's in my chat going, I'm. Okay, now everyone's putting in some fun little emojis flying all around. All right, so let's get stuck into the plot of the second half of the book only, since we've already got. See, the mouth stays shut. That's weird. They're so hungry in my chat. What is that? Cookie time. Whose emote is cookie time? I'm getting distracted. Whose emote is who has cookie time, Stephen? Can I see if I put my Beck likes cookie. Beck. I really want to stay on target. I'm not a cookie girl. I can say no to a cookie. I don't know what it is about me, but if you were supposed to put all the treats in front of me, I would go to cookies last. Okay, got that out of my system. Brownies, that's down there as well. Anything that requires a lot of milk to enjoy it. It's like, it's just, no. What about a biscuit? It's the same thing. Darren loves cookies. Rate them out of 10. Give me your top 3. Hold on, you even said that you liked oat. What are those ones that everyone hates? Oatmeal raisin?
I like oatmeal raisin cookies. Not my favorite, but I would never turn one down.
Oh, they're my favorite.
Welcome to Maude's Book Club, aka Oatmeal Raisin Cookie Support Group.
I love cookies. I can't resist a cookie. Or 2 or 3. You can't just have one.
I have said no to so many cookies in my life. But
Possible.
Chocolate that has like roasted nuts in it, see you later. White chocolate, oh my God. Okay, sorry. So second half of the book, let's talk through the plot. Obviously Cyanide has just discovered an obelisk with alabaster. They're like, what the hell's going on here? Oh, we're so vague and yet nefarious about an entirely giant structure that no one really knows the history of and no one really seeks to know. It's just that, you know, it's there, it exists, so let's not ask too many questions. Obelisk. I couldn't stick the landing of that joke. I thought I could find something. Obelisk, Asterix. No. Anyway, no one's questioning these obelisks that just are existing all around. What joke? Oh, you're so right. I wasn't there. Anyway, this obelisk that Cyanide has discovered is broken. When she reaches out to it, a guardian threatens to kill her in Alabaster, and she sets off a volcanic explosion. Cyanide and Alabaster survive the eruption thanks to a mysterious stone eater who then carries them to an island called Maude. Am I saying that right? Maude. 4 letters. How wrong can I get it? Let's find out. Maude. You read Asterix and Obelix as a kid in Australia? I did. Meow. Is it? Did you want me to just say that? No, you just wanted me to say it on stream, didn't you? Oh, you know I'm like Ron Burgundy with words. I will read it. Meow. Meow.
I feel like people don't question the obelisk because there's so much stuff that's remnants of past civilizations that it's probably just like, oh, that's from an old culture that doesn't exist anymore, because there's so much of that they assume the obelisks are like that.
And I feel like anyone who would understand it is wrong. They are not human. So like no one wants to learn more about that because it's like in the origine kind of hemisphere, and that's not cool. And last week we spoke about if civilizations are going through seasons, and seasons are technically apocalyptic events, the passing on of information is going to be incredibly difficult. So some civilizations, if they're disconnected, can be wiped out and built on again. So yeah, this planet could be so far advanced. It's just that when a tsunami comes in, or an earthquake destroys everything, or a volcano literally wipes everything out, you build again. But everything that you'd already built is lost. So it's why there's not as much advancements. But I feel like with an obelisk, it's like, yeah, there's no information. They're not trying to seek information. And I think it is taboo being sort of like a giant, strange looking rock type thing. And there are people that, anyone basically who understands rocks or formations is a dangerous person. So yeah, you just keep very ignorant, stay blind, stay mute on the topic, and just like let it pass by.
Maybe there's also that even if a still was like, hey, I want to learn about those obelisks, once they started looking, the Guardians would probably like hear about it. Yeah. And I wouldn't put them above like just killing a normal person, right? Because look at how they treat the Origins, right?
Yeah.
So the Origins definitely wouldn't ask any questions because the Guardians have like hold their leashes, right? And then so it probably they're like, well, it's from an old society, we don't understand how it works, but we've got dead civ stuff everywhere. And B, kind of like there's this unwritten rule, like don't ask questions about anything because the Guardians will come and get you.
And we do learn quite soon into the second part of this book, Cyanite's having the thoughts of like, wait, I've always answered to, the next up, but who do they answer to? So we are pointed in the direction of a villain. I guess my first question is, what does everyone kind of feel about the Guardians? In the first half of the book, we've seen how they use fear and violence to control, how they are raising the Origins in a very regimented way where they must obey or be punished. But now that we're kind of out in the real world, so to speak, how do you feel about the Guardians as a villain, as the antagonist of the series? Because I think for me, I didn't know enough to really feel the threat. Vaden, you got thoughts?
Well, to me at least, they were very threatening. Like their like creepy smiles, their way they seem to always be able to find people. Like they could track people by putting the implants in them. That's how they put that one into the Maya when she was a child. She off it, and like in the way they basically implode like Origin users, like using their own powers against them, is pretty scary. But like it was a little strange because you're like, why are they doing this? Like they're serving someone obviously, but they don't know why. Like we don't know like who they're serving. So that part's a little like more vague. You're like, okay, well, who is the real danger here? Like these people are obviously dangerous. They can kill you, but who are they serving and why are they? Well, that's why I would love to learn more about those people there. But yeah.
Yeah. Lisa, where was your comment? Was saying, I feel like we don't really know enough about them. I feel like villains, the most important thing about a villain is their purpose, their reason, what they're striving for, what their objective is, why their determination is actually quite scary. I don't feel like we know enough about the Guardian because we don't know what their purpose is. We don't know what their objective is. We don't know where they stand. We don't know what they're fighting for. We don't know what they're protecting. We just don't know enough. So for me, that actually minimizes the threat that they possess because I'm like still waiting. I'm like, okay, you seem a bit scary. Oh, you broke her hands. And then you told her that you loved her. Like, that is absolute abusive manipulation completely. And like, you were trying to break someone down, and then throwing a little bit of Stockholm syndrome in there as well. It's like, okay, that's not great at all. But why? And I think why is a really important thing that we just didn't really get at the moment. Avery says, in this book in particular, the Earth is a much bigger threat than the Guardians, hence why they're kind of swept aside. Okay, so with that, that's actually a really great observation, Avery. But do you think that there was enough of a pretense of, at any given moment, a mountain could erupt, the ground could open, that there was a power struggle between the origins and the Earth in itself, and like using the Earth as a weapon? Did you kind of get that looming sense?
Yeah, I did, because throughout all of Cyanide sections, I mean, basically every single thing that came out of Alabaster's mouth was about that, about how dangerous the Earth is, how the amount of power he had, he could, easily wipe out everybody, like everything, like it was a constant topic of conversation when Alabaster was in the room, within the scene. And then, of course, in Eastland's scenes, like, they're actively in the middle of a season, so we know what the Earth is capable of. And she always talked about, like, this is typical, like, this happens all the time. And so I think the fact that, like, the emphasis was on the Earth being the main villain in this book, and I did think that it was enough, personally.
Okay. Anyone else got thoughts on that? Yeah, KP Dubs.
Well, to expand on that, like, Cyanide was absolutely terrified to be on an island, because the Earth is what scared her the most. And she was freaking out when she found out she was there, and she's like, how are these people here? How are they still alive? And of course, find out why they were still alive, but that terrified her. So again, I think the Earth is the biggest fear for her.
Colleen.
In a way, since a lot of this book kind of reflects back on slavery, the Guardians were kind of like I forget what they called them, but they were the managers. They were the slaves that were put over the other slaves, and could be really brutal. And I kind of felt, I mean, their job was to keep the other slaves in their place and make them do what they were supposed to. And I felt like the Guardians were like that.
That's really interesting. It's a like psychological study where it's like they get a group of people who are, I think, in the psychology class together, and they split them up, with 7 people being prisoners and 3 people being the the prison guards, and watching that abuse of power manifest quite quickly, knowing that you've got power over another person. I think for me, I had always, because Guardians don't look human, they have sort of like a marble-esque type skin, they have gems for teeth in a way, because they were so otherworldly, I really sort of separated.
That's the Stone Eaters, not the Guardians.
Yeah. Oh, the Stone Eaters, my bad. The Stone Eaters have been very separate for me. Okay, so now I'm getting a little bit confused with the Guardians and the Stone Eaters, because I thought that don't the Stone Eaters, are they controlled by the Guardians? Oh, Red Panda's in the house, dropping some gifted subs to Buzman, to M Mitch, to Johnny Tan, Chaos Engineer, and random username thank you, Red Panda. How you been lately? How's life? Thank you for doing that. Susie says to, oh yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt. You can go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was a pretty good though.
I was going to say this: the Stone Eaters are kind of an enigma. They're the people made of stone. They sort of like the person that saved Alabaster and Cyanide and brought them to the island. Stone Eater they're not really related to Guardians at all yet, established in the book.
So the Guardians have basically had an implant, which means that they can nullify the powers that the Origins have.
Yeah, but the Guardians are human. But the Stone Eaters are like their own thing, and I don't believe, at least the part I've reread up until, they haven't really explained much about them other than they're made of stone. They talk from their chest, and they're like rock people.
Yep. And they've been trying to integrate into society subtly. Right. So they're like more of an ancient species in a way. I'm going to read through some of the comments that we've had. Jay Buntrock was saying, look, the villains, the enemy, the antagonist was not fleshed out enough for me. KB Dub says, they basically say to kids, you're terrible. You are a terrible, terrible monster. My job is to kill you at the first sign of danger. But if you do what I say, you might be allowed to live. Yes. Vanessa says, I definitely did not feel a connection. It's like they showed up a few times. They seem scary, but we've got no idea who they really are. Toast Post says, I was more afraid of regular people who were okay with the oppression of the geomancers. Ooh, geomancer, great word. K. Frito says, the Guardians are a slow burn. KP Dub says, look at how much, Cyanite was terrified to be on an island. The earth is what scared her the most. Nick says, I feel like there's no head of the snake for us to feel the full threat. Like, who is leading the Guardians? I think if we got more chapters of Demaya at the Fulcrum, we could have gotten more info. Agree or disagree with that? Agree, thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Can I have a maybe off opinion from other people?
Go for it.
I don't think there is a villain, and I don't think having a villain is the point of the first book. Because like the Guardians are just
this
like
was my second read through the book, and I kind of felt like reading it this time, it was like I had not read it the first time. I had missed so much on the first read. So there were things about the Guardians I think I picked up this time that I didn't. Like they were children of the Origins. The Origins.
Guardians were children?
They had been the offspring of the Origins, Origins, however we're pronouncing that.
Origins,
and, yeah. And they were, but they didn't necessarily have the same orogenic powers. And so they were taken and trained in other ways and given those implants. So that's how I kind of made the connection to the overseers, because they came from the same roots.
Okay, I think I'm starting to piece it together a little bit more. There is a hierarchical system in here. There is breeding to create power. If you do not strive academically or behave, you are basically made into a thing that is, you are a function instead of a person. A big message of the second half of this book is that there's a lot worse things than death. Black Belt makes a really great point. I find it fascinating that the Guardians are stills, aka the squibs of this world. I really hope we get to know a Guardian character in the next book to find out more about them. But that's a great question. So when we look at sort of any other property where there are those that have ability for magic and then there are those that don't. In the world of Harry Potter, the squib is the shameful thing. Oh, wow, you were born into a magical family and you cannot use magic. That's shameful. You are lesser than. That is an embarrassment. X-Men, you are born with it. I love the randomization of the whatever power it is that you have. You are deemed a freak by those that do not have powers, and a lot of the conversation in X-Men with those that have extreme powers, do they need to be controlled and contained? And I think that that is very similar to what we're experiencing here with the 5th season, where control is a massive part of this, and it has become societally acceptable to destroy anyone who has, especially a young child who has the ability to harness and access that level of power and not really know or understand how to be safe with it, because it is emotionally driven. It is a lot of the time things that you cannot control. And so it's doing everyone a service if you kind of take care of it and it's perceived as a problem. The fact that it's societally normalized to kill children, in the mindset of, well, they have the potential to wipe out cities. That's sort of what we're experiencing in this book as well. So yeah, it's like I feel like this is way more closer to X-Men than anything else, personally.
Can I go back to the point I was making about there not being like a clear-cut villain? Because obviously the Guardians are not good. Like, they're obviously terrible people. But I feel like it's more how we're learning about how the society is kind of like broken, and it creates like how the Guardians are like pushing down the Origins and like doing all these terrible things to them with like the nodes, because that stuff was horrible. Yeah. But how Alabaster wasn't really like, I have to kill all the Guardians. His thing was he wanted to break society, because it wasn't just the Guardians, because the Stills feel the exact same way, right? Like, look what happened with Essen's family. Mm-hmm. Like, her husband killed her son, and then once they kind of like found out what she was, the whole town was ready to lynch her. Yeah. And they even like with Lerna, the doctor, it was like because he was her friend, it was also like he was in danger too. So
guilty by association. Yeah.
Yes. That the Guardians are a byproduct of this society, and that we're more experiencing like living in this society where like the whole world is against you. So it isn't like a typical like, this is the villain, this is the hero, and you know, like a typical like hero story, like fantasy creation.
Yeah, there's not a face. There's not a face to sort of like the enemy.
It's all byproducts of the society, that because another theme of this is Alabaster's rage at society, right? And then he finally finds a place where it's like everything's at peace and it is ruined. And it's more just like needing to break this whole, like bring a new season to break this society, because it needs to change. Yes.
Burn it to the ground and build again. Yeah.
Yeah, because like there's no Guardians or anything in Essence, like the Essen part of her life. But it's more her against her trauma and her just like trying to find her husband, right? Like you could say he's kind of the villainous aspect, but it's also just her.
She wants to kill him.
Yeah, but also even before the reveal that all three characters were the same character, you can feel it in just the way that she is, that it's not only the death of her son that like broke her. You can feel trauma heavy on this character, and it's revealed exactly what all the trauma was through the whole book. But even before we knew it, it's like you can feel that this is a character who was pushed down by society.
I would argue that anyone who has in a way been brainwashed to dehumanize another, that's the villain. And I think we spoke about that a lot last week, where it's like these techniques of being like using slurs, using a terminology where it sort of labels and defines a person to be less than or a threat or dangerous, and more often than not, according to some people in this book, better off dead, is doing a favor if they are removed from society. So I think that that is absolutely sort of the faceless villain that this book is absolutely facing. And you're seeing generationally what it has looked like in every capacity of this, in the school life, at the academy, learning about the the level of powers and how you become a thing as well, in a sense, where it's like you're assigned to breed with a particular person, and like the desensitized, there we go, nature of viewing things like giving birth, giving life, all these sorts of things, and that was actually really quite hard for me. It was just the nonchalant nature of being tasked to breed. And I hate being reminded as a woman that when shit goes bad, we suffer first, like a lot of the time. The men are all collected to fight. And it's like you're a disposable soldier in an army a lot of the time.
One thing I found interesting too, though, was that I kind of liked it that Alabaster was also a breeder. Like, he didn't want
against
to.
his
They
will.
didn't care. They did not care. They were
No.
just like, you're a 10 ring. You need to.
I have actually Alabaster in the revelations that we have in the second half of the book. We're definitely going to spend a lot of time on that. I guess my first question that I have, if you're in the doc, you'll see it there. Explain the ways that Demaya evolves when adopting a new name/identity. Even the name Cyanite reflects Demaya's determination to survive and reemerge out the other side of trauma. So Cyanite, because we all know that when you go into the academy, once you kind of hit a certain ring, you step up, you level up in a way, and you are gifted a new name that you choose. Hers is Cyanite, and Cyanite is an actual mineral. It forms at the edge of a tectonic plate. With heat and pressure, it does not degrade, but it instead grows stronger. So it's essentially kind of like a diamond thing, where it's like with enough pressure, you actually become stronger. Which, ouch, when you really think about it, that fucking sucks. This whole, but, all the trauma made you who you are today. That's not great. That's not like, yay, I'm so glad I went through horrific things and I'm a survivor and I am who I am today because of all the stuff I've gone through. A lot of the time in writing fiction, especially for women as well, the vengeance piece or the way that a female character can go through sort of like a personal justice, a personal vendetta, she's often assaulted. And I think a lot of male writers were like, but then she becomes stronger because of it. And that ain't it. But we're getting sort of Demaya's a very different version of this. Demaya was the name that she was given. She chose the name Cyanite. And then Essen again is a way to sort of detach from the previous life that she's had to start anew and to start fresh. But who wants to go into ways that Demaya evolves in each iteration, or at times if it's from Cyanite to Essen, devolves as well, trying to survive what she'd gone through. Jimmy, you're doing what Darren does and you're twirling your hair too, and you guys are like learning each other's fun, gorgeous little habits, and it's like so cute to see it. I feel like everyone's going to start doing this one soon. I already do it a lot of the time as well, but he went off video. Oh no, there he is. So yes, you got something to say, Jimmy. Terry's doing it as well.
Yeah, I got that from my sister. My sister would do that as well. Like when she's thinking, she twirls her hair.
Yeah. Yep.
But in terms of those things that you were mentioning before, so as you know, the main book's POV is those three people, Essen, Demaya, and Cyanite. And they're going back and forth between whatever. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am not an enthusiast of psychiatry or anything like that. But what it seems like is that, have you ever heard of the term code switching?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, when you talk to someone you're talking to them differently than you would your mother or your father. So it's like, like I'm talking to my friends. I'm not going to say this, you get it. So with, like, for example, with Essen, she is involved with a love triangle with Alabaster and Enon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when she is Demaya or Cyanite, she's a completely different person. So I'm thinking to myself, what triggers those things? Is it a way of dealing with the life that she's living? Like she's like, I can't be Essen in this situation, so I might as well switch. it's very similar to if you ever saw the show Mr. Robot, where the character was, he was one guy and he did not know what the other guy was doing, but then, he ended up being like a big, similar to Fight Club kind of thing.
Okay.
You know?
Yep. Same
point that I'm trying to make
person.
is that, yeah.
Yep.
But the general point that I'm trying to make is it's kind of like a coping mechanism, and also in a way that it's making her be able to get the benefits without too much of a loss, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying. So you're basically saying that all these versions of her do exist. They coexist inside, but she kind of presents and adapts to her surroundings and comes forward with sort of like what's going to help her in that moment, or a survival mentality, or, a basic adaptation. I actually disagree, because you're saying that that's simultaneously the same person. Because of Demaya being younger, Cyanite being in her 20s, Essen being in her 40s, I think the transgression of what's taken place in her life has impacted the next version of her. So Demaya, disowned by her family, her first sort of guardian, quite literally that term of like, a person assigned, an adult assigned to look after a child, maims her, hurts her, and then pretends, says that he loves her. So she's got massive abandonment issues, huge trust issues. She's got worth issues. Of course, she's trying to get gold stars and A+ in school because she just wants to be validated. She wants to feel important. She wants to feel a sense of worth. Recognizing that she was bullied because she was too smart. Like, this girl couldn't win, right? It was coming at her from every single angle. She just wanted to survive. I feel that Cyanite at this stage has a little bit of a bravado. And it reminds me when I was in high school. You're like, right, I can't stand these people, or I'm in this because I have to be. So I'm going to try to put on a facade where people can't hurt me, where I disassociate, where I don't care. You can't sink in. You don't get to know the real me. And I think that she had a lot more sarcasm. She had a lot more no Fs to give. Rust to this, rust to that. No swear word seen yet. I think that was her coping mechanism. But I think that she kind of understood her duty and knew what had to be done. The times that Cyanite confronted me personally the most was that detachment of really important things. I've just got to breed, and I guess I'll have a year off my life, but that's what I'm supposed to do. I'll be inconvenienced by it, but like whatever, I'll get on the other side of it. The end of what Cyanite goes through, you understand why Essen is a broken woman as well. Having basically has blood on her hands and then seen someone else do the exact thing in a way that she's done. And it's just really hard for her to sort of process. She's in survival mode. The world's ending around her. She is way more reserved, detached, and I think that is a consequence. So we're looking at sort of like events and the consequences of the events that happen. But nice. Avery says there was a shift in voice each time she acknowledged the different points in her life. Like when Demaya declared herself Cyanite, the voice switched to match the voice in Cyanite's chapter. So that's why I was using the terminology evolve or even devolve. And I don't want to use devolve as like a less than. I think it's more of like an outward and then an inward personality in a way. But Jimmy, I like that you're coming at this, especially you're using Fight Club as an example. It's like having different versions of ourselves and bringing up code switching, which I think is really important because that is a big part of Black culture, needing to code switch for white friends to not make their white friends feel like they're alienated. Lingo, a lot of the time when they do use sort of like their cultural lingo to their white friends and their white friends adopt it, it's something else that feels like that's been taken from them as well. But a lot of the time it's, and you see this in a lot of, I've been learning it in a TV show that I've been watching at the moment, the morning show. There is one Black host and he is deemed to be to this, to that, to this, to that. And he's basically been made to act a particular way. And he's saying, this is racist. You're telling me to be less Black. And the white producer's like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. I'm just asking you to be this. And he's like, yeah, you don't even hear what you're saying. And I think that that's a form of code switching to appease people and not be too insert the blank as well. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Aslan said, anyone else constantly forget that Alabaster's like 15 to 20 years older than Cyan? Nope. That is forefront of my mind in those conversations. Where he... Yes.
One thing about where Jimmy was saying, I feel like when people have gone through a severe trauma, they can end up disassociating, and in some extreme circumstances, they can develop another personality because it's a way of separating themselves from what happened to them. And it's usually something that happened to, like, you know, a lot of the times it's like childhood trauma. But I feel like Essen is that for Cyanide because she killed her child and she destroyed a place that accepted, like, they were welcomed there, and it was the first place ever where it was like, we have a home here, we have a family. Like, her kind of throuple with Alabaster and Enon was like, you know, her son had 3 parents, and, you know, they were happy, and that everything got destroyed. So she destroyed happiness. She destroyed the only place where they were accepted. So Essen was born of that because she couldn't be Cyanide anymore.
Well said. There are conversations absolutely that I want to bring up about why community is so important to Cyanide and Alabaster. And community is a theme as well throughout the book too. But to keep it to sort of like this timeline that we have, starting with Demaya, going into Cyanide and then going into Essen's chapters, we'll try and keep them separate like that as they were presented in the book. The sort of next chapters in the book after the halfway mark, Demaya is still at school and she meets a grit known as Binoff, a girl who's of the leadership, who's learning and trying to find this mysterious room within the main building. Now, I'm not sure if it was the narrator who irked me with this, but Binoff is a character. KP does. I've been off my game for a while. Nice. Hydrate. I will. Binoff was acted by the narrator. Thank you. No, that was KP Dubs. That was for you, KP Dubs. Was really quite irritating, and it didn't, the way that Binoff was presented, and I'm not sure who else listened to the book as well, but it was presented in a way where I did not understand why Demaya would help her at all. In the super summary, it's her Binoff's inquisitive nature and unrelenting sort of desire to get this through leaves Demaya wanting to assist. But the way that I listened to it in the book, that for me took me out of it. This is my least favorite part of the book. But a question that I have is, they do discover this particular room. It's sort of like a deep hole in the ground with spikes coming out of it. Essentially, they were called, what was it? Sockets. And a guardian is drilling Demaya in the office. What happened when you're in there? Who called out to you? Can anyone talk me through what was happening to the guardian who was questioning Demaya in that moment and shifted into something else where it was like another person was channeling through that guardian almost as a vessel to communicate to Demaya? And what did the questions mean? Anyone got an idea or an inkling? No idea. She began buffering, says Jay Buntrock. Yes, James.
I think, I don't know how much it explains, but I think later in the book they kind of reference that area is maybe where the obelisks were made. Like,
yeah.
They talk about that place under such heavy pressure from all the weight.
Yes, that the room there was incredibly important because that's where the obelisks were essentially made, is what I thought. I just don't understand. She's talking, and then all of her emotions disappear and someone else seems to be asking questions through her. Vaden, you got your hand up.
I just have a guess.
Yeah, go. Help me, because I got nothing.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, what I think may have happened is like at some point, like we know how people can touch the obelisk and channel their power essentially. Like we see the Maya do that, or Sinai that, and that's and so. I'm wondering if maybe the reverse can happen. If the obelisk can touch people, like in this case, the guardians, and like maybe there's a way for them to like potentially enter them and possess them to some degree, and like use them as a vessel. Mm-hmm. So that's just That's like I don't have much evidence for that, but like that's just a guess.
We know a couple of things where the Guardians, if they touch you, can kill you. So Guardians have like a contact type thing, so you have to not be touched by the Guardians. It was also mentioned around the halfway mark of the book that Guardians are implanted with something that can nullify any of the Origin abilities. Avery, you're saying it. Is it a brain parasite? What is this implant? Is the implant a technological implant, or is it a artificial, or is it a what's the
Parasitic.
how many parasitic? Is it an actual parasite? What is the word I'm looking for?
Or
Is
symbiotic.
it's just alive. It's a creature. There's a word for it.
I think like biological.
Yeah. Do you think it's something like that? KP Dub says, way out there theory, a Stone Eater's the one implanting the Guardians so that they can use that chip to see and act through the Guardians. Now, we've got some bits of technology happening here already. Do the Stone Eaters have advanced technology? Is it artificial or is it organic? Organic was the word. Yes, got it.
What if, like, the Stone Eaters are breaking off a small chunk of themselves, and that is the chip? And that's how they control the Guardians. So the Guardians are sort of a chip off the old block. So
you just had to, didn't you? This whole thing was a setup.
Oh.
The whole thing was a setup.
A, nicely played, Ken, but B, well, we see in the end with Alabaster that the Stone Eater is eating him.
Yeah.
So
consuming.
Like, they eat stone. But because there was a dead Stone Eater inside the Garnet obelisk.
Was dead.
The Stone Eaters are, because if the obelisks are being created in that socket, what if the Guardians are essentially there to keep tabs on the Origins because the Stone Eaters want to know where the Origins are at all times because it's their food source. So like we saw with Hoa that when Cyanite used the Amethyst obelisk, it kind of like woke him up, and then they were all searching for her, but he got to her first. And how they all hate being around each other, right? These Stone Eaters, like the same way solitary predator animals do. Like they don't like being in each other's territory. So what if it's like a thing where this is like their energy source? So the Guardians are a way for them to keep tabs on their food.
I do like that. And the tracking part is very, very interesting. We know that the Guardians can merely touch the nape of the neck and can track that person from then on. And yes, Hoa, being a Stone Eater, has a way to track and to find locations of anyone who's got the Origin abilities. That's interesting. KP Dub says, so Origins are more like cattle than slaves. Very interesting. The cattle part, if it is a food source, that's quite interesting. Is it a food source, or is it how information's passed through generations? Because they don't have archives. Passing on information is incredibly difficult through all of the seasons, being apocalyptic events. Can they absorb knowledge and pass knowledge via consumption of a person? Is that the piece? You know what? I'm looking at Baz's face. This is how I play games. I seek information where I can. Baz had tuned out. I had not hit upon anything. That is not what it is. That was a guess, Maude, but I don't think I was close. Now, if he had perked up at all, I could have been saying something brilliant. But because of that, you were just reading the chapter. Who knows? Who knows? Keep It Up says, I think that we are establishing, I think what we're establishing is that there are so many questions that we need to go ahead and read the next book right away. Haha. Crystals are good information storage device, says K. Frito. Ali says, joining late, but wanted to say hi to everyone. Hello, if you are just joining, what's up? It's Maude's Book Club. We do sci-fi and fantasy books every single month. This month, our book of the month has been the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin. It is a fantasy book which I have described as sort of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but sort of more rock formations and ice, geomists. That is also sort of in vein of like the Poppy Wars, which we covered back in March. Our bonus book for this month, we covered book 5 of the Dresden Files. That was the first week of this month. We've already picked our next book. Actually, we kind of picked the rest of the year. We got books for days. If you want to know what the slate looks like, the schedule looks like, join our Discord. Pop on by. We chat books all day. We're going to be doing Dungeon Crawler Carl, book 5, The Butcher's Masquerade. If you've not started the series, please do. They're so good. Books for days. Yeah. If you're wondering what the hell that was, read the dang book. Those books are very, very fun. And we have great news about author interviews that I like to do. Ali says, this reminds me of that theory that there is generational knowledge stored in our DNA. Jay Buntrock says that Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 5 is on Kindle Unlimited if you have it. Just Book 5, none of the other ones before it.
I didn't check. I just specifically searched that book, so I'm not sure if all the previous ones are on there.
I'm sure we can find out in a few minutes. Toaster Poster says you earned a new achievement. We've got that. We've got that sound, which has no swear words in it, which we can use all the time.
New achievement.
Just like that. Aslan says, I wonder if the Stone Eaters bear any connection to the Season of Teeth, which we don't really know much about either. They're all just sort of apocalyptic events. K. Frito asks, with the Stone Eaters and the Origins, are they eating them or transforming them? Transforming them into Stone Eaters? Oh. Okay. Avery was saying that who's they seem to attach themselves to an origin to, a guardian or a Stone Eater?
Stone Eater, because Alabaster's got that one who follows him everywhere, and then Ethan finds Hoa, who then follows her, and is basically telling her own story. So I don't know if I'm sure that's important. The fact that they seem to
Stone Eaters,
they pick an origin and follow them.
So are origins cattle, slave, or pets? This keeps evolving. All answers could be right. We don't know. What did we think of Binoff? Did you think it was Tonky? Why would we? Why would we? I always get a bit miffed when an introduced character in the second half of the book is more important than necessary. Introduce it in the first half of the book, it's an important character. That's my thing. If it's the second half of the book, it's like you're jamming in. Baz, your fingers waggling.
The hint that you get that they are the same actually comes before Binoff is introduced. There is one line where Tonky almost calls Essen cyanite.
Oh.
It's either S or SY dash, and then she corrects herself to say Essen. And
interesting.
That is the first hint that Tonky has. This is I think the first or second chapter where they're together. And then it's way later you introduce to Binoff.
Yeah, interesting. I would have personally, in terms of pacing, in terms of order of the book, in terms of when things roll out, I would have liked the Binoff chapters a little sooner, because I just felt personally it was a little bit tacked on. But something that I really loved about the introduction of Tonky is just the nonchalant nature of discovering that Tonky's trans. It was oh, trans woman. All right. And that was it. It was not any other discussion of are we going to use the same bathrooms? It was none of that. And I really love this as a demonstration of it isn't the dangerous thing that I think a lot of people have associated with trans. I thought it was a really great textbook of oh, Tonky's a trans woman. Okay. And the only observation is, has a potion or a lotion or something to kind of aid, I think, with transitions or just like helping contain hair. And in a post-apocalyptic world, that's not going to last forever. And I love also this thing of like, you know, Cyanite's always kind of worried about how she's perceived. Essen's worried about how she's perceived. Tonki's worried about how she's perceived, but no one really cares. In fact, Essen's so blind about Hoa half the time, being like, never seen Hoa eat. That's cool. Never seen Hoa sleep. No questions. That's so normal. Don't think Hoa's human. Oh well. That's a very different thing. But I think the nonchalant nature of like absolutely nothing changes upon the discovery of Tonki being trans, I thought that was handled really, really well. Take a leaf out of that book. I think that was like not, because sometimes it's like when we're dealing with issues, and there's quite a few very progressive themes that are happening in this particular book. Polyamory, gay relationships, trans, like they're all just sort of, it's not a forced lesson. I feel like it's just a very kind of like an observational, hey, this is what it is. We're not going to hit it over your head. It's not weird. Nothing's weird about this. Nothing's like drilled into you. Thank you, Avery. I love books where queer people simply are. It's not a forced lesson. It's not for the sake of it. It's not all those things. Queer people exist. There are queer people absolutely everywhere. There are trans people. They exist. So to have it in a character in a book and for them to simply exist, I think is beautiful writing. It's exactly the way it should be. Yeah, thank you. Queer people simply are. And I thought that was really, really well handled. I thought she was going to call her some sort of slur, and that's why she stopped at S, says Stargirl. Oh, interesting. She was going to call her, like, because that's it. The whole dynamic is like Essence saying, I don't want Tonki to find out that I'm a Rogger, and using that slur a lot of the time. And I feel like this is really indicative of Essen when we're talking about sort of what version and what personality they have in which venture of their life. Essen by the end is exclusively calling herself a Rogger. She is absolutely leaning into the slur. She has let this word completely define her and in a way break her. She is convinced because she's using that slur, I believe, that she is less than. And it's a fearful thing. She doesn't want anyone to know about it. And I think that that's why she's more reserved as well. It's almost like she's believed the bullshit. Too many people have said it over time that she's just kind of like, she's believed what's being said about her. Similar to Alabaster, who used the slur a lot. Alabaster's a broken man. There's a quote in here, and it's not the time, it's too soon, but I want to share it because it's one of my favorite quotes. I just think it really made me respect Inan as a character, incredibly observant. Talking about Alabaster, there's many things who broke him. He holds himself together with spit and endless smiling, but all can see the cracks. You, though, you're dented, you're bruised, but you are intact. That's freaking harsh, but it's also a way of like healing. Have you healed from the trauma? And I feel like Alabaster has given up in a lot of ways, and he uses the facade of being okay and happy and all of that, but he's dying inside. Like his whole life has been robbed from him. He got rewarded with 10 rings and having like some sort of sense of independence, but he doesn't at all. I just thought that was such a sentence. Avery says, Alabaster's my favorite character. Who's everyone's favorite character? Tell me right now. People are commenting it. Hi, Alex. Good evening. KP Devs loves Hoa. J Bunt Rock loves Inan the most. Sprinkle says if I have to choose, it would be Inan. Favorite character poll. Cyanite says Frito. Cyan says Stargirl. Inan says Lisa. Tonki is who's interesting to you, says Clever Girl. Susie said whoever poisoned Alabaster is my favorite character. Was probably a Guardian then. Basil says Hoa. Catch says, oh, the one guy that did that one thing one time. Who would like to put a name to that person?
To what person?
DG. It's G. What's the husband's name?
Ajita.
Jita? Yeah, no, that's not your favorite character at all, Catch. That's the only one who falls in line with that. His name was Tim. Jija, there it is. Geminish, Cyanite. Lisa says Brian.
I was giving him a name. It was Brian.
Oh, we'll call him Brian. Got it. I was like, what did I miss from the book? Jasper says Aslan. Jemison says Club Critical. Jemison, not Geminish. Jemison. All right, next question. Because no one knows what happened to the Guardian when they were questioning Demaya. A part of the evolution from Demaya and Cyanite, which I think is really important, and Cyanite's sort of transition as well. Kate touched on this earlier. The exploration of the lands. When you're in the Fulcrum, you are dehumanized. You are simply a means to an end. You are like a nameless, faceless soldier that is given tasks, that is ordered. It feels a little bit militaristic. A lot militaristic in that way. They're making a military where it's like you must obey orders or you are discharged with being lobotomized and being a superconductor in a way. What was really beneficial for Alabaster and Cyanite, and what I think that they've essentially trauma bonded over, is the fact that they've discovered this island, the pirates, where they are accepted, not only accepted for who they are, but almost celebrated for who they are as well. They are seeing that Origins, a feral Origin, is in a position of power. Sure, they raid a lot. They don't really have anything to trade, so they steal. But they were given means to survive. They were given a home. They were given supplies. They were given food and clothes. And they were given respect. And this is something that they haven't experienced for a very long time. And I think it's a little bit too late for Alabaster, who's just, finds himself crying a lot. I think it's like feeling sort of loved and accepted for the very first time. Cyanite's feeling the exact same thing. I should have called them pirates. Pirate.
Pyrite. Fool's gold.
Pyrite. That's a kind of mineral.
The pirates should have been pyrite.
Yeah, it's known often as fool's gold.
Except they were pyrong some of the time, stealing things. They were also polygamous. Hi. Ding. K. says pyrite, a naturally occurring iron sulfide mineral. The name comes from the Greek word fire, because pyrite emits sparks when struck by metal. Pyrite is called fool's gold. To the novice, its color is deceptively similar to that of a gold nugget. They actually would have made great pyrites, the fool's gold, because they didn't earn that gold, they stole it. I like that. I like that a lot.
And I think you missed with that one, dude.
What do you mean? Missed with that pun? It was fantastic.
It took 20 minutes to explain.
That's not his problem. That's my problem. I want to give it the accolades it deserves.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But now I know more as well. I guess what I'd like to open up the discussion is just how much Cyanite changes in this moment in the book. Do you like the fact that it focuses a lot more on relationships? It focuses a lot more on sort of like Alabaster's vulnerabilities, of Cyanite exploring a different relationship. Is this part of the book? Yeah, did you like it? Because for me, as soon as she does have a baby, the pacing 3 years later. And I always find that like it's really, really difficult. You look at any sitcom, you look at anything like that, as soon as a woman has a baby, it bogs down the story, and they try to skip over it or minimize it as much as possible because the baby interferes with the development of a character a lot of the time on screen. KP Dub says, these chapters, I saw smiles from the group, so I was happy.
I was responding to Tim. I saw the group smile at my pun. I was good.
I thought this was the chapters in the book. What did you think about these chapters in the book? How was it important?
I also enjoyed them. I like that she and Alabaster especially found some happiness, some level of freedom, for as long as it lasted anyway.
Yeah.
I agree. And it also is kind of interesting that it's like those are the chapters that were slower and, you know, just more day-to-day human because they were finally allowed to be human.
Yeah. It did impact pacing, but yeah, it was a little bit slowed down, and you got to sit with the minutiae of this part of their lives, the little day-to-days. You're not rushed through it. It's not like end of the world all the time. It's like, how do we have a difficult conversation about, you know, who gets to have whom? Yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun. Nick says, I'm glad Cyanide and Alabaster were able to get some peace and happiness, even if it was fleeting. So I was fine with the time jump there. Avery says, it didn't bother me because by that point, you know that these are flashbacks leading us to the present. So of course, only the important things are going to be told. I will say I loved the first half of the book, presenting it as 3 different characters. It actually, for me, took away a lot of the impact in the second half of the book because I knew where it was ending. I knew what it was happening. Like a lot of the time it does take the stakes out if you know who survives or how it survives or where it goes. So these moments, for me, they feel less impactful. Is that the same for everyone else? Lisa?
I don't really, like, I don't totally disagree with you, but I feel like the second half of the book, to me, I wanted to keep reading because I wanted to know how we got to this place. Like, how did we go from this happy little community to where she is now? Like, it made me keep reading more than feeling like it was bogging it down.
Okay. Yeah. K Frito says, I needed so much more info from the younger versions. Daniel says, I actually enjoyed these chapters because you get to actually get a feel for who Alabaster and Cyanide are as people. KB Dubs said, of course, the second Cyanide saw someone on the volcano torn, volcano torn Alia, I knew her peaceful time was over. I knew her peaceful time was over because she would say so every single time. I'm really happy, but of course that can't last. Every time. I'm like, I don't need this. I know it's going to happen. I know shit's going to go down because I've already got that part of the book. You don't need to tell me things are going to go down. You don't need to tell me this isn't going to last. Oh, no. Did I? Damn it. I said a swear word. That means shit's not that bad. What do you say instead of shit? Stuff? Things? What's poop's going to go down? That sounds like a different book. Shirt. Shirt is going to go down.
You could go overly formal and be like, oh no, events will transpire. What will I do?
Events will transpire. Well, Inenshaw went down. Ding.
Oh dear.
He was a generous lover. It said so in the book. Stuff is going down. Things are happening. Okay. Oh, there's show chat. No, I can't either. Oh, there's a pirate. Oh, good times. But that's what pirate looks like. Thank you, show chat. Pictures. I like pictures. The point is that she's a pessimist because she's never been allowed to be happy for very long, says Avery. Touche. Of course, yeah. Oh, of course this isn't going to last. Of course I have a little bit of happiness and it's not going to go. I interpreted that as like over-explaining only because we know the trial of events, but very well said. It needs to be discussed that she can't fully surrender to happiness because she knows, because of who she is and what she can do and how life is, it ain't going to last. A pessimist is just an optimist with experience, says KP Dubs. There you go. There you go. So let's talk a little bit about the introduction of Inan and what he represents to both Alabaster and Cyan. Alabaster's sexual orientation has definitely been sort of revealed here. He'd previously spoken about how a lover had been killed in front of him. It was the lover was referenced by name only. And now we understand that Alabaster is attracted to Inan. But like the way that N.K. Jemisin writes Inan, we're all bloody attracted to Inan. Inan's great. Inan's tall, he's strong, he's a feral origin who's like made a real name for himself. He's boisterous, he's fun, people look to him for answers. This guy's great. K. Frito says, are we? I'm going to say yeah. I'll speak on behalf of every single person. Even if it's a 2% crush on Inan, it's there. All right? This guy's crushable. And again, I love the fact that you have a very masculine, it reminds me of my favorite part of Song of Achilles. You've got a very masculine man who's so fluid in sexuality. And I love that there's like not the societal sort of like homophobia that's placed upon masculinity. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the most masculine thing a man can do is have sex with a man. That is the epitome of masculinity, I think. But Inan's there like, hey, Cyanide, I think you're cool. And then he's like, but you're with Alabaster? No? And she's like, oh, not because we want to be. Ugh. But she's also like, I think Alabaster would like to be with you. And he's like, why not both? And then that's when everyone's very, very happy. But that's when Inan also says the conversation about Alabaster. Many things broke him. He holds himself together with spit and endless smiling, but all can see the cracks. Were you the reader, able to see Alabaster's cracks in the way that Inan is saying that everyone can? Everyone's nodding along. Can anyone give me an example of a standout moment of cracks from Alabaster? Avery?
Well, pretty much anytime, like along their whole journey, like he'll be telling Cyanide something, and then he'll kind of like get angry, but not get angry because he's too powerful to get angry. But like you can tell, like the way he words things, that he's very upset. And it's like little things here and there, but or like he'll start laughing. Like something will happen and he'll just start laughing.
But it's such an empty laugh, yeah.
Yeah. And Cyanide's just like, what are you laughing about? But he's just, yeah.
Daniel says, yeah, he was always either cynical or way too jokey or passive aggressive. He'll also nonchalantly say something that's utterly devastating. Oh, I was isolated as a child the entire time and I couldn't hang out with absolutely anyone. So I spent my entire time at the Fulcrum reading books and essentially saying that books were his only friends. And that's how he just knew everything. And you're like, that's horrible. That's so traumatic. It's just factual. Susie says, I think Alabaster was cracked. If you know what talking about, to be honest and fair. If you know what talking about, to be honest and fair. I need help with that one. Nick says he lost a lover before and then he was forced to breed over and over and over again with women who he wasn't attracted to. He has had so much trauma. I also do think it's important to highlight sort of the male trauma of having consent taken away from you as well. I think for me, my focus is always like Cyanide. I'm like, whoa, how are you so detached from this? But to see Alabaster, yeah, there you go, Vaden, saying Alabaster is very raw in his emotions. Yeah, sort of understanding his perspective with all of this, going, he's like, I'm a gay man that is forced to breed because I'm powerful. You're just like, ooh, that's traumatic. Aslan says, when shit happens, and Alabaster just starts laughing. KPW says he was on the verge of insanity the whole book. You can either laugh or cry, and some choose to laugh. J. Bunt Rock says, Alabaster's slowly healing on Maude. That gorgeous moment where Cyanide can just hear him openly weep when he's like, you know, had a lover, a male lover for the first time in decades. And like for me, I interpreted that moment as like him having permission to actually feel and process. This being a moment where he's actually just able to sort of like release in a way. Phantom says he also has a pretty good idea what happened to his kids. That was really hard as well, where it's like they come across a node and Cyanide's like, oh my gosh, it's a little Alabaster. Like this child is the spitting image of Alabaster. Nope, it's not a child. It's a thing. Don't ever talk about it again. Don't ever look at it again. That level of detachment and again, dehumanizing his children as a way to cope and survive as well. Oh, sorry, I forgot the I'm. Okay, I think Alabaster was cracked, if you know what I'm talking about, to be honest and fair. I still don't know what you're talking about, though. Give me a little bit more insight into that one. But yes, Phantom, that's a really good observation about this levels of trauma that Alabaster's gone through. So yeah, that was a really lovely moment on the island where they were able to kind of like just have a sense of normalcy for the first time ever. Avery says, oh yeah, Kate?
Oh, sorry.
No,
that's why at the very end when they meet again and how devastating him saying is like, I understand why you killed Koru, but I could never forgive you. Because he's just had to watch so many of his own children die.
Yeah.
And
not
also,
you too.
He helped all his surviving children commit suicide when he broke the continent in half because he said like the nodes are all at peace now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he helped them to die. So it's just like, here's just another one that was taken from him.
And you absolutely know when he says, I can never forgive you for that, that's because he can't forgive himself either, I don't think. I think that's another layer into it as well. I also think there's potentially like I don't know if he's self-loathing. I just think he has like, he's lost his sense of self, which is why at the end of the book, I truly believe he's almost like relinquished himself. Like he's just got nothing. He's got no fight left in him, I don't think. But he's passing on sort of like, oh, I really want to swear. How do you say fuck shit up without saying that? Cause just total destruction. Cool. I'm getting there. And at the end of the book, where he's like, I can't forgive you. But turns out, fold showed up. Turns out I haven't been a maniacal, like, borderline insane person just running amok. I have been incredibly intentional with what I've been doing this entire time. I'm at my last sort of like my last few breaths before I turn into an actual rock. Havoc. Thank you, Osiris. Break stuff. Forked the poop up. Yeah, there you go. That's a whole different. I would not even flirt with that one, Terry. That's gonna. Don't Google search that one. I would steer clear of that one. But I did like that he's almost passing on the chaos baton. There we go. Whew, we got there. All right, so we talked about the time jump. Did it rush events for you? People were saying no. We liked the fact that they had their quiet and they had their peace and they had, love for a little bit there. Let's talk about their son. So Alabaster and Cyanide have a boy. They have a boy.
Corundum.
Koru, yes. Cyanide again has absolutely no idea that her 2-year-old son is quelling shakes. That has been smoothing things over for quite some time. She, again, hearing her relationship with her own child, she's like, oh, I think that my son's quite cute. I like my boy. I don't want to see him all the time. In fact, in this sort of civilization that we have, we're just going to keep passing kids around. Everyone raises everyone here. But she's still really quite, in this aspect of her life, she's not Essen, who's, I'm going to walk across the ends of the earth to find my husband who killed my child and I'm going to end his life. That is, I think, I'm not a mother, but I think that is what would define motherhood. You would travel to the ends of earth to hurt someone who hurt your child. Here we have Cyanide, who's like, I mean, the kid's kind of cool. I have absolutely no idea that my child is incredibly powerful this entire time. She's not very, very hands-on. It wasn't the moment I saw my baby's eyes, I knew that, like, you know, I don't think she had that kind of. It didn't happen overnight at her first child, motherhood for Cyanide, is what I will say. I do think having community was helpful for that. The child's survival was not completely dependent on her. It was a community-based sort of operation to raise children. Lisa says it's because she didn't really want to have a child at this time. She did choose it later. She chose to start a whole new life. She was kind of coerced into motherhood. I do think it is a very, very 180 change to go from early Cyanide of I'm going to be inconvenienced for a year to have to basically breed with someone whose name I forget, but it's my duty, so I'll do it. See you, T-Bones. The children that she chose, she loved unconditionally. And then later she had a daughter named Nasan. Daniel says, yes, as a mother myself. Daniel, I made an assumption about your name. You're a mother. I need 2 seconds just to recalibrate. Daniel says, yes, as a mother, I would absolutely do anything for them. However, she didn't really want Koru. I will say, if I would figure, I like to think I'm observant enough to recognize pretty quickly if my baby was a certain powers that I had trained in. Maybe not. I'm on my husband's Twitch account. Thank you. What would you like me to call you? Hello, Daniel. You're like, it's not Daniel. I will use whatever name you choose. Mira. Hi, Mira. Lovely name. Avery says, I think it's important to show that having a child doesn't magically make someone a good parent or make them want the child if they never wanted them in the first place. I agree. We see the bookend effect.
I wonder if with this later children, part of her is trying to chase Koru because it's like, well, this will be my second chance to do it right.
I perceived it as wiping the slate clean. I truly think she was sort of burying that last life. I think that she chose a new name. I think she chose to settle down and to become a teacher and to sort of like lay low almost. I think that this was her chance to start again new and to learn from. I mean, I don't even know if she would even perceive them as mistakes, but she would get a chance to start over. And I definitely think she was giving all into this new life. Lisa says, I think she still loved Koru, but there was still a disconnect with her being a mother. I agree. Yeah. Nick says she was definitely coming around to being a mother to Koru and loving her little family. And then it was all taken from her. And I think with Essen, it's like, I've had everything taken from me for my husband to kill my child. Like, that is enough. Toast Poster says, like the bride in Kill Bill. Yep, you are just on a course of vengeance. Mira says to Avery, talking about that you don't magically become a good parent when you have a child for the first time. I have friends who became mothers and that maternal instinct came later. I have a friend, and I will not mention names, but I hate the taboo around these particular conversations. It took her years to love her child. There was a very, very sort of really horrible feelings that she had where she was like, I know what I'm supposed to do and I don't feel that way. I think that having a very terrible pregnancy, postpartum depression, when it's all centered around a child, a baby, I think that there can uncontrollably be a disdain that takes place. And then if you have an iota of disdain, that turns so quickly into shame. And what an isolating feeling, because you can't tell anyone, I don't like my child, without absolutely being judged, just being shamed. So you have to kind of sit and process this feeling. But I think it's way more normal. I think there's so many things around pregnancy and what happens to women's bodies and during pregnancy that no one talks about, and it's just shrouded in shame. And I can't stand that as a woman. Colleen says motherhood's hard, and there are ridiculous expectations put on mothers. I know, it's like it's such a hard thing to go through. So to have a societal sort of judgment placed on you of what should be normal added to all of it while your hormones are going absolutely bonkers.
Notice how when a man is considered a good father, he's doing the bare minimum of things that a woman has to do, and she's like, if she didn't do that, she'd be considered a bad mother.
Yup. There was a statistics that were unveiled where it was like, for a woman to be happiest, for a woman to stay the happiest she could be, she should not marry. Because a woman's happiness goes down when she becomes a wife. But a man's happiness increases when he gets married and becomes a husband. And that's because a man gets things done for him and a woman's workload increases. To be a wife is to almost work for someone else that you love. So I thought that was incredibly interesting, that men get happier in marriage and women get more miserable. Thank you, she's still single. It's smart. Ha ha ha. I'm happy. I have dog. Where did she go? No. Nick says becoming a parent has so many multitudes on so many levels, especially for mothers. So many conflicting emotions and feelings, but I know a lot of people struggle with a loss of the sense of self when they become a parent. It's not easy. I don't think I would cope very well at all. Ali said we would always share instances when you feel like throwing the baby out the window. Lol. You gotta share it. You're not gonna do it. You're just gonna say you're thinking about it. You're not actually gonna do it. But yeah, talking about it, I think is women get poorer too. So you mean I won't even get more money if I get married? I'll become worse off? Oh my God, no one's selling this to me. Someone sell marriage to me. Go on. There's so many married people in the chat. Sell marriage to me. Crickets. No one's saying anything. Oh, okay. Academic, great flex. And you're a parent. Both my wife and I got much richer. Find a blue collar man, says Maddie. I will say the happiest relationship I've been in, it was a blue collar man. Marry rich or marry nice. I'm living that dink life, which is double income, no kids, says Robin. That was always my goal. In my head, young Maude was like, be engaged for 3 years, be married for like 7 before having kids, explore all the world. Mira says, I love my husband, but I know that marriage isn't for everyone. And then Toaster Poser says, marriage. Well done. Baden says, dink life sounds like the best to me too. Oh, we got a bit real there. No wrong answers though. No wrong answers. Whatever you're doing to seek happiness, you will find it. I hope. Fiddled. Oh my God. We're having a very vulnerable conversation about life, and then Fiddled Funhole pops up. There you go. I mean, maybe it could help someone's marriage. Fiddled, maybe that could enhance it. I think I'm going to give my mother a huge hug the next time I see her. Says, Fiddled, that was sweet. I wasn't expecting that from you. You're coming in here with the heartfelt message. Ali says I could live off my kids' smiles. That's so gorgeous. Academic says my wife helped me skill up by paying for a coding boot camp. She was making way more than me at the time. I then leapfrogged her salary once I started working as a software engineer. Oh, that's the kind of relationship I want. You just keep building together. But yes, everyone hug your mum. My mum's coming to visit me in 2 weeks. And my dad. My dad and my mum are coming over to visit. I'm
I
so
visited
excited.
my parents last week. It was great.
It was good. Did you give him a big hug?
Yeah. Nice. Visited him for 9 days.
Oh, that's so good.
My dad came out here for work, and I had to have dinner with him. I got to have dinner with him last night, so that was good.
Oh, that's lovely. I definitely feel like having moved away from my family for 11 years, actually longer than that, since I was 19. Don't math that. Don't put math on that. I did it the wrong way. You either say the years or you say the age. You don't do both because then they add it up. I will say that it's really quite hard not being able to just see them all the time. And also, thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy's like, hey, I can't hug my mum. A lot of people have lost parents. A friend of mine lost his mum last week. It broke my little heart. So if you can, do it while you can. You get a free Tesla with marriage. What? I still wouldn't marry someone for just a Tesla. Robin's going to see your parents in 2 weeks. You're so excited? You know what? That's a loaded question. Not everyone enjoys their family. Not everyone loves their family. Sometimes families have very, horrible relationships. Some people have been emancipated from a parent. There are narcissistic parents that, God, you have survived through. So I will not project any. Are you excited? You don't have to be. If you are, fantastic. Enjoy the family time. If you do not enjoy family time, run. Play video games. Cash22 says, if I marry and get a Tesla, can I then sell the Tesla? I'm so glad you asked to sell the Tesla and not sell the wife. So that's something. That's something.
I've driven a Tesla and they're great for.
I've driven your wife. I'm kidding. I don't know why I said that.
I don't have one anymore.
That's why I was able to make the joke, because I knew you didn't have one.
Tesla is great for driving back and forth from here to work, but I would never want one for a road trip, and I love road trips.
No, yeah, that's way too dangerous, isn't it? You need a portable battery? I don't even know. Fiddled
terrible.
Yeah. Fiddled says, I despise my family, but I tolerate them because of those small good moments. There you go. James says, my mum's in Thailand until next year. We're going to have a long-awaited hug. Oh, Stargirl says, I've actually taken a road trip in my Tesla and it was great. There you go. Boom. Academic says, no lie, double income, no kids life is really nice. 50% of the time, I yearn for it. I feel like there's such a permanence. Marriage is not permanent, but having kids is definitely permanent. Once you make that choice, that's your new life. Absolutely. All right, we're getting sidetracked again. Let's read to the next question. Oh, yeah, cool. Cyanide kills her child. If this is a sensitive topic, just a heads up, we are going to be talking about what I indelicately just said. But this is a really big changing point. So everything's going really, really well. There's a time jump, living their best life. Obviously, it can't last. Cyanide's seen a guardian that's kind of been lurking and stalking about. And of course, the burgundy uniforms show up in ships. I know, not a great segue. But I happened to glance at what the next question was, and it was like, ooh, the show must go on. Zelda's back. Can you not lick your bits on camera? Thank you, darling. This isn't an only pause. Are you good? Oh my gosh, she's looking at the camera. There you go. Are you good? You look here. There we go. Lovely. Huh. All right. Alabaster's throwing boulders on these ships. The Guardians are attacking. Everyone on the island is overrun. What I thought was super symbolic is that Inan dies exactly how Alabaster described his previous lover being killed. So it's happened again the same way. Now, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or if this is just their effective method of killing. But good Lord, that was a stab in the gut. That was horrible. Alabaster is also slowly being dragged into the ground. He's being just pulled in to the ground. That sounds horrible. I wouldn't want that. Does Toph do that in The Last Airbender? the animated show, is she pulls people into the ground. Yeah, horrible when you kind of see it depicted in this particular way. Sinai understands that there's things that are worse than death. If they did find and take her child, it would be an existence that was horrible. So Sinai makes the decision to kill her baby. Now, this revelation of her actions at this moment explains the more reserved and cautious demeanor as Essen. I don't know how to ask this particular question. Like, does Essen make more sense having learned about cyanide and what happened? Do you think it was necessary? Do you have more empathy? How is what is the difference, I suppose, between cyanide doing it and her husband Gita doing it? Lisa.
Well, I mean, they're two totally different instances. She did it to save him from being turned into something like the nodes or whatever they were going to do with him, like use him, torture him as a. But Jija did it out of pure fear, just killed his kid because that's
no questions
that's what.
asked.
Yeah. So it's definitely two different things. I feel like knowing.
It's a difference of
what
fear
she did-
for you're fearing for your child and you're fearing of your child.
fear of the child.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like knowing what happened kind of makes me understand why she's so driven right now to find her daughter.
Mm.
She doesn't want to lose anymore after, her husband killed her other kid. So I can understand it more. I don't know if it was necessary or not, but I understand it.
Mm. Yeah, this is like a situation you never want to be put in yourself, Nick says, yeah, I think the little life that she built for herself to start over in Tiramo makes a lot of sense after what she went through, which is why she is on the warpath, trying to get to Jija and Nissen. She can do something about what was taken from her this time. Ali says, keeping in mind I didn't read the book and I'm just listening, is it like of Mice and Men and Killing Lenny? I'd never read that. My brother had to do that for school, not me. Did anyone read it?
Yes, I did in high school. I was just typing up a response, so I'll say it now, Alicia. No, I saw it as the kid is going to be either enslaved to live the life that Cyanide had lived as a tool. Yeah, as a tool, and that's the best case scenario, like a tool under threat of death, or just lobotomized into being a like an organic device. So she kills Corundum to avoid any sort of fate, because the best fate is still a terrible one.
Yeah.
Whereas, for reference, since you said you didn't read of Mice and Men and Lenny, of Mice and Men, Lenny, I forget his partner's name, but the book focuses on like Lenny and his friend. And his Lenny is sort of a bit slow and simple-minded, but very strong. So he doesn't always regulate his strength, and it eventually like causes some harm to like some people. And his friend has to make the difficult decision to kill Lenny, despite the fact that he and Lenny had a dream of like building like a farm together. Because the friend is like, I don't really see a way out for either of us with the trouble Lenny got them into. Whereas whereas Corundum, it's like, no, like Corundum's like not guilty of anything like this. This is like Cyanite's making a decision of like, I can't save Corundum from this terrible fate now.
Yep.
Lenny and George, yeah. I just remember Lenny because that was what happened. But yeah.
Ali says, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, Colleen's like it's to save Corey from becoming a human battery. Well said. Mira, who now goes by Mira and Dan Darkly. Love that. I have more empathy because she lost a child due to fear and anger brought on by societal discrimination. Well said. Well said. We got to show chat. Also, Nick, good to see you in the chat there. You slipped on in. I've been reading all your comments as if you're not here, and I apologize for that. I'd love to get your input on these sort of things. Going back to Essen and Essen's chapters in this particular book, I'd mentioned it before. I'd love everyone's insights. Why was Essen openly ignoring Hoa not being human? Was it a denial? Did she just trust her gut that he felt safe?
I feel like she was so traumatized that she just had tunnel vision. She was only seeing the path to Nassan and Jija. She was just like,
and Hoa was helping with that.
Well,
so Hoa was like a key.
He was just in her periphery. The same as like Tonki, and everything else was just like, I need to keep going. I need to keep going. I need to keep going.
Care.
Yeah, she did. I feel like she just did not care.
She didn't care.
She also she planned to just use him when she finds out he consents where her daughter is.
Yeah,
and she's like, okay.
He is actually the first lot of hope that she's had in a while. And you see her break every time she's asking the question, have you seen a man with a girl? Yay, hi. No. Boom. Devastated. Like, she's barely functioning and she's fueled by the hope that she could find her daughter. And Hoa provides that hope. Hoa had childish nature. So maybe that played a part. Yeah, Jimmy, absolutely. That's a great point. This is a boy. There's a sense of innocence. There's a sense of childlike wonder. I think this is where her motherhood does activate. I have to protect this child. This is what my functionality has become. Like, you know, they don't know when they'll ever find money. They have to trade in things at this stage. The first thing she does was make sure that Hoa has a bedroll and boots. So she's prioritizing and looking after and protecting what she thinks is a child. Any evidence that contradicts that? Don't need to see that. Don't want questions. Head in the sand. No, thank you. He's going to help me, and that's the most important thing. At the end, near the end of the book, we discover that Lerna, who had initially helped her through the first chapters when she discovered Uche's body, has pretty much been on the road the entire time trying to follow her. What do you think the importance of Lerna, the character who is persistently trying to be there for her, who was essentially ostracized by his own town because he defended her, and he was almost like a sympathizer or an apologist for the origin because it was her specifically? Why is he an important character, do you think? Let's go Vaden.
Yeah, I think Lerna's an important character because, like, we've been shown this society is very is heavily prejudiced against the origins, that their life is, you know, pretty awful in general, and that this is the way the world has been. But I think Lerna shows that, you know, not everyone's like that. Like, not everyone thinks of the origins as bad people. Not everyone is.
Not everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Exactly.
You know,
So
he sees her as a person first.
Yeah. So he's just saying things there to help show that there's hope among the people, that maybe if things were different, if the world was rebuilt, then okay, you know, what they're trying to do, maybe there could more people like him, essentially, that treat people fairly.
I think we need more demonstration of, you don't have to buy the bull. You don't have to, mob mentality, these sorts of situations. I think if there's ever a lesson that we can learn from this book in particular, we need to see people as people again. We need to see people as not a label or the color of their skin or, great to see you, Ali. Thank you so much. We've been conditioned sometimes to dehumanize people because of a trait. And I think that this book, we needed Lerna, even though I felt it was a little shoehorned in at the end as a forgotten character. We do need demonstrations and reminders of, see people as people. We're all an individual person, and all of us need basic decency, common courtesy, and respect, because people are just that, people. Thanks, Mira. Yeah, and I think we need reminders of that all the time. we have a little cliffhanger at the end. A discussion was happening in the Discord throughout the last week. Did you notice that there was never a moon? Now, some people kind of started understanding that every time there were descriptions and glances of the sky, it was just talking about stars. Who saw this coming? That Alabaster's like, you did KP Dubs, you did Avery? How? Because not me. No moon? Really? Whoa. If you don't tell me to care, I don't notice. Yeah.
Way at the beginning, there was a couple mentions where they look at the sky and they mention the stars, they mention the sun, they mention the obelisks. They don't mention the moon. And in the very first interlude, only about a third of the way in, they say something about people notice what's there, they don't notice what's missing. Immediately, I was like, the moon. Later on, there was 3 or 4 more references, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's got to be the.
K Frito said they mentioned it so many times. If you're telling me what I'm missing, honestly, me as a reader a lot of the time, it's like, tell me what I need to know. And if they're like, what about the things you don't need to know? I'm like, then I don't know them. Okay, then moving on. So I thought that was quite interesting.
I put it together once, like, I was like, oh, and then I went back and flipped into the interlude and stuff. But when it kept saying in those old proverbs that Father Earth was angry because he was alone. And then there was like the whole thing about separation because moons are different than stars, right? Moons are rock.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, like it's not just that the moon is gone, the moon was taken away somehow.
They say something like, Father Earth is angry because they killed his only child. A moon. Much more obvious.
Nah, I'm like, I don't know what your law is. I'm not going to apply my understanding of things into this. Like, it's your story. You tell me. You're telling the story. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely can detach on that. Clever Girl says, I was focusing on the ground like a rock hound. Yeah, same. I was not looking up once. So I thought that was quite interesting. It did lead the thought, though. I loved what Jay Buntrock said, though. I noticed it due to the lack of werewolves. Hello. No moon, no werewolves. The moon was actually formed from Earth, says Colleen. Sprinkle says, I didn't focus on that either. Mira said, I did think about that at one point, the way that they described, well, Avery was saying the way that they described the things that happened during the season are things that they would say would happen if the moon got knocked out of orbit. So obviously that's what's going on. Not me. He said at the end, he's like, I'm going to tell you a little something. It's the moon. And I was like, what? Why? Oh. And then I started thinking, what would happen to Earth if there were no moon? Now, immediately tides. Immediately tide is something that is pulled and drawn by the moon. Having instability with the plate tectonics and all of that, it makes sense now. My goodness, you take the moon away, there's absolute disruption. Anyone who knows science and biology and geology, you want to talk me through what would happen if we had no moon? The planet would rip itself apart, says Tim.
Pretty much.
So the planet's ripping itself apart because there's no moon.
Also,
where'd the moon go?
Around the sun would destabilize a little bit.
Is that why there are seasons of like ice and darkness? Yeah, that makes sense.
Moon's gravity. It's a torque and a tidal force on the molten core of our planet, which helps keep it warm.
What? No.
It helps keep it warm so the Earth would cool, for one thing. If the iron core solidified, we would lose our magnetic field, and solar radiation, cosmic rays would tear us up very quickly.
Cook us alive.
Oh yeah, we'd be in a microwave oven the size of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
If what happens? The hot part gets cold.
If the molten core of the Earth cooled and started to solidify, it would weaken the magnetic field of the planet. And if it did that, we would get bombarded by all of the nasty stuff sent to us by the sun, and it would basically turn the Earth into a giant microwave and cook everything on it.
Academic said, so we would be little hot pockets. Start with hot pockets.
So another way of explaining it, the molten core generates the force field that protects us.
What?
The molten core of the Earth puts the Earth's shields up.
The Earth has shields?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So like
in
the magnetic
sci-fi
field
terms,
that everyone talks about in science class.
I'm
they're
just
like
gonna end the stream. I can't.
No, they're like
Oh,
deflector shields.
we just
What?
Like
built
from Star
on
Trek.
screen.
That's
Check
like
show
the
chat. Put a little
Yeah, we'll
thing in
talk about
show
it
chat.
after. We'll talk about it after.
Earth has shields against
Well,
radiation.
let's just say it is not a surprise to anyone that the last sentence in there, A, didn't see it coming, B, didn't have the impact it's supposed to. I'm like, no, Moon, I'll get that back. Little do I know that that means all of the things that are happening is because the moon's not there. The science for me, I mean, it didn't stick the landing.
The book did not anticipate your lack of astronomy
And
intelligence.
that's on you, NK. That's on you. I need you to just aim lower for people that listened in biology. Is it biology? That's a biology thing, isn't it? Nope, it's not even biology. Okay.
It's more.
What is
physics
it? It's physics.
More physics than astrology.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that didn't impact me the way it should remotely. But everyone else must have been like, whoa, or I already knew the no moon. I knew that from chapter 3. That's why
Not
this whole thing's gone into, that's why there's
astronomy.
Seasons. Astronomy, astrogeology.
Astrology, you freaking idiot.
Who said astrology?
I did, because I'm a freaking idiot.
You called yourself, I was about to protect the person you just called an idiot, and it turns out it's you. I should still step in. I should still step in. Don't call yourself an idiot.
That's what I said.
I didn't even know that there was a force field shield. Is that the ozone layer? Stop asking questions. This is a broadcast.
Yes.
People think you can be smart, Maude. Stop talking.
Yes,
I thought you were going to say, I didn't know there was a moon.
I mean,
okay, Maude.
and I knew that it affected tides and it affects women. Did you know that? The moon actually affects
And werewolves.
That's because women are 4% werewolves. I knew that. Everyone knows that.
Mom's over here like, I thought the moon was cheese.
No, I want the moon to be cheese. That's the difference.
What is everyone else?
Yeah. The last question that I have, did you find closure in the end of the first book? Did you find closure? Did you have answers? Did you feel like a sense of, got it, on to the next? Lisa.
Yeah, no,
Outback. Nope.
No, I put something in the chat way earlier. Like I felt like this book was almost just like a prequel.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's just like it's a prequel to what the actual main story is going to be. So I feel like there's a lot more that's going to happen. Hopefully we'll get answers in book 2, but yeah, I definitely felt like a lot of stuff was left open.
Outback saying it set the stage. Avery said, I didn't need closure. It is book 1 of a trilogy. K Frito says, look, same. This was half the book. Same for what? The book pulled an Empire Strikes Back, except that kind of got a rare response from me. There's no moon. Oh, that was my response. Really? This is in real time. You ready? I'm going to something, the moon. Also, the way that the narrator said it, I didn't even hear it the first time. I was like, the what? Oh, well. I listened to it again, and I'm like, what does he say? This feels like it's important because the music starts playing as soon as he said it. So it's building an atmosphere here. What? The moon. I was like, oh. Yeah. All right. That was my response. Vaden, you're being very patient.
Just mentioning, like I said, for closure purposes, yeah, I didn't feel like I got a lot of closure. Like I said, all this is set up. There's a lot of really great like world building, but yeah, not the seeing that Essen didn't really get an ending and really real closure what happened to her 2 kids. I mean, well, what happened to the first kid, but she couldn't find Essen, she couldn't find the husband that killed the kid, and just that felt kind of like very disappointing that we didn't get any kind of real resolution to that at all, or even like any kind of real hint as to even where he is. Just like, oh, that's it.
Still walking.
Yeah, at some point. So I just wish there was more leads, but yeah. Also,
that makes sense.
But we didn't rate the book.
Oh, your internet's starting to cock out a little bit. What was that last thing you said? Oh no, now you're frozen. No, your internet betrayed you. It was the moon. The moon did it, Baden.
Okay, I should be fine now.
Or it was Spectrum.
Yeah,
Didn't say it. I didn't say it. Steph, you were saying that there was no closure on one particular moment of this that you were seeking more answers for. That was your comment, yeah? Oh, I hope it was your comment.
Yeah, my non-closures with Alabaster, like what's happening to him right now. He's like falling apart or getting eaten, who knows? And also, where has he been for the past 10 years? Like, how does he know about moons?
I mean, he does have access. He had access to all those books. But yeah, why wasn't he sharing that with Cyanide earlier? What has he been doing for 10 years? That was barely a catch-up. That was barely like a, oh my God, it's you. Are you okay? How do I save you? It was like, I can't forgive you. By the way, stir up some drama. Yeah, you're right. There wasn't enough there. Who is saying other things about the rest of it? Yes, the moon does help us keep our atmosphere. Thank you. Nick says no closure, but that's okay. This book was a lot of setup, but it still told an interesting story that I never felt was bogged down by only being set up for the actual story. So you felt, Nick, that there was enough story within the setup for a story, but there was enough there to keep you happy. Yeah. Mira says, no, absolutely. I absolutely feel the need to read the next one so I can get the answers that I'm craving. All right, with that, let's rate this book. What do we give it out of 5? Are you going to continue to read the series? What were your thoughts? Why did you score it what you scored it? Nick comes in straight away. Nick, if you're there, you want to unmute. Tell me why you gave it a 5 out of 5. Oh, I'm the odd one out.
Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 5. I thought it was great overall. I like just the way the story unfolded and how I didn't pick up until I watched the first stream that they were all the same character. I originally thought Cyanide was like Essen's mother or something, but just the way that unfolded and how there were little hints throughout, I thought just like the writing, interesting. Yeah, it was great. I'm curious how that will proceed in the next books, though. Like, because we had that structure of the 3 different timelines and stuff, and how
that was what was exciting.
You hurt or help the next books. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't continue that. You get one chance to do that, and it's been done. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. KP Dubs, you were giving this one a 4.75. You still bugged why Cracked helped when she was a ringleader. Yeah. Make it make sense. She's just over it, just throwing. Maybe Alabaster's kid, just seeking chaos any chance you can get. See you, Terry. Let's read out the rest of these scores. And if you haven't, score it in the chat as well. Lisa, 4.5 out of 5. Yep, we got a nod for that one. Sprinkles gave it 4 moons. Baden gave it 4 celestial bodies. It would be 5, but hey, we're missing the moon. Nice. Avery, 5 out of 5. This book was a work of art. Talk me through your 5. I read your review on Goodreads, and I love that you were championing this book. I want to hear why this is a 5.
It's the way it's written, her use of voice, the way she uses all 3 points of view at the same time. Like, it's very hard to make second person work in a work of fiction, and she does it, and it's brilliant. It's got third person limited, it's got first person, because that was a big plot reveal too, that it's actually, the whole book is actually written in first person, but it's being told to somebody. And therefore it's in third person and second person.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Who thought it was Hoa? Who was like, what? Hoa the whole time? The Hoa time? I already beat you with that one, KB Dubs. All right, I'll take it. All right, 5. Just merely for the writing. The writing was just flawless. Colleen gave it a 5, but I know that you loved it. It rocked your socks off because you love rocks. Yep, she's nodding. Yep. All about them rocks. K Frito, 3 out of 5. I just needed more. I don't want to read more. Stargirl says 3.5, but based on what I'm hearing is going to happen in the last 3 chapters, it might go up to 4. Mira says 4 stars for me, just because having a hard time with the narration in the beginning. J Bunt Rock says 4 out of 5. Loved it, but didn't like the lack of closure. Too open-ended at the end there. Toast Post said 4 out of 5 for me. Great writing and world building. I just wish it was more linear. But that's on me for not being able to pay attention. Ice Noel, you gave it a 2.75. Well, you're not in the chat anymore, but I would love to hear why 2.75. KBW says, I love the way that Jemison wrote. We didn't even talk about how at the end, Hoa is the narrator. We still can. Hoa, what? J. Bunt Rock said, couldn't believe that he was the narrator. I thought it was just a hoax. Let's read the next one and see how it shakes out, says KP Dubs. Hoax. It's in there. It reads better than it says. More like world unbuilding. I gave it, I don't want to say it. I gave it a 3.75. I liked the technique of the writing. I thought it was really interesting, Avery. I absolutely agree with you. I don't think it was enough to keep me enthralled. I think I struggle a lot of the time with, it's almost like a need to know, keeping a lot of things from the reader, keep them guessing. I mean, look what happens when you've seen it. You keep me guessing too long, I just stop caring. I just wait until you tell me. So I become a way more less interested when I have to think too much when I read. We know that about me. Reading is for switch off time. I read self-development books to think the entire time, where every single page is like, whoa, wow, I didn't think that. That's really cool. This one for me, I found by the end I was almost happy that it was over a little bit, and I didn't feel a rush to learn more. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if it's like not understanding geology enough, not understanding science enough, not understanding the threat of not having a moon.
Because you don't like the idea that you have to realize there's a moon.
I didn't like the idea that I had to realize that there's no moon. And like, it's when it's a Death Star instead, like, sign me up.
I will say that, like, I had the whole series on my bookshelf, and looking at the back of the second book, which is the Obelisk Gate, I'm like, oh damn, I can't wait to read this book.
Can you read the blurb? Cool. Is it somewhat spoiler free? I'll pull it up. The Obelisk what?
The Obelisk Gate.
I mean, last time I read one from Goodreads, it has a spoiler in it. So I want,
well, essentially, I'm not going to read, like, it's not exactly what it says, but it's like, it talks about Essen, like, trying to find her daughter, but you also go from the perspective of her daughter. So we get to see what was going on with her, and I was like, ooh.
Okay. KB Dubs, stop listening. I think this could be spoilery. And I know you don't like to know anything. Oh, and I called early on that Alabaster was the one in the epilogue who tore the world in half. You sure did. You sure did. I missed that completely. Oh, that sounds even better, says KP Dubs. So there you go. So we are still doing split perspectives, which will be cool. Don't go on the Wikipedia to find a blurb.
Naughty. Don't do that.
I have had so many things spoiled from me just by trying to research the first half of the book.
You could just go to, like, Amazon and, like, Barnes and Noble and, like, those kind of sites.
That's what I was looking at. Oh no, that was Wikipedia. All right, here's Amazon. Essen's missing daughter. KB Dubs, get out. Get out. Yeah. Essen's missing daughter grows more powerful every day, and her choices may destroy the world in this magnificent Hugo Award-winning and NYT notable book. The season of endings grows darker as civilization fades into the long, cold night. Essen, once Demaya, once Sayanite, Now Avenger has found shelter, but not her daughter. Instead, there is Alabaster Tenring, destroyer of the world, with a request. But if Essen does what he asks, it would seal the fate of the stillness forever. Far away, her daughter Nasan is growing in power, and her choices will break the world. Yeah, nothing. I just don't know if I don't know if this is my series. Oh, her
it's
daughter,
a
not
tune
son.
all over again.
I went through 2 of those books, though. I suffered through 2 of those books. It was just the narrator. And then she pops up again in Dark Age as the narrator. And I was like, be gone. Her son was killed. Did I say something wrong? Her not son. Her daughter.
No, son. Sounds like not son. Her daughter, not son. Bad pun. I'll stop.
Yep. Academic says, I think that there are some books that are really well written and put together, but the tone and the process of getting through them really encourages me just to slow all the way down. John Gwynne, The Shadow of the Gods, I'm looking at you. I couldn't get through that book. I was 10 chapters in and I was like, I can't tell you a name of a character or what's going on. I could not get through that book. Mira says, I can't wait to read this one.
There was a really good comment in the Twitch chat last stream, I remember. I made a mental note of it. I forget who said it, but it was like, racism isn't like the root of something necessarily. It's a symptom of like the exploitation of nature and trying to get control over it.
Yes, I remember that.
And I think the subsequent books really go into that and tie a story together that represents it really well. So I saw that quote and I stuck to it. I remember to keep that in my head because I was like, well, I don't know if this person has read the whole trilogy, but they actually really captured the overarching narrative.
Well, it sounds like Alabaster's trying to eradicate the social structures that have been put into place. And to do that, you have to start again. So he wants to break the world to rebuild. To go into.
That's, yeah, you could say that. Yeah. I can't say.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, you've got half of it right. So that's all I'll say.
Okay,
well, I mean,
okay.
Like he does actually mention it during the book that like specifically the world has a lot of issues and the only way to fix it is to rebuild it, so to break it down from where it's at and start all over again. So
yeah, it's not like there's a bad apple on the tree. It's like the tree's rotted. Yeah, I get it. I get that.
It's not as Thanos as it might seem right now, you could say.
But I mean, see, like this is like a villain. You have his argument, you have his drive and his purpose. And sometimes when you take a step back, you're like, well, factually, he's not wrong. If we keep overpopulating the way we're doing, we are going to cause extreme famine and it's going to be horrible. So if you just click your fingers and make it happen real quick. I think I was blipped if that happened. I think I was like, oh, wait.
This is my nihilism coming back. Remember we talked about that last week, but I'm kind of like, to Alabaster's like, just let him cook. Let him destroy the world.
Yeah, get him out of that ground. Undo the rocks. Let him go.
Totally unrelated to 5th season, that it feels really nice to have the hardcover new editions of Dungeon Crawler Carl in my store.
What do you think of it's very different title, the image of it?
The imaging is very different, but I really like it.
I just love that he's got an official book. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's the first 3 are, ready for pre-order, at least on Indigo. But I like it with they have the little skulls as like which one's 1, which one's 2, and which one's 3. Like, the skulls that they have over, they're like the player killer skulls.
Oh, great.
So
Love it.
On the cover where it's like 1 is filled in for 1 and then 2 is filled in for 2 and all 3 are filled in for 3.
That's cool. It was at the top of the Barnes & Noble newsletter the other day. Oh, this is going to be great. We're just like, it said well played, but it was a speech bubble and it was coming out of my mouth. Oh, wild. I feel like are indoctrinating a lot of people into the Dungeon Crawler Carl community single-handedly, and that is fine. We'll do that. DCC Hype Train, let's go. If you're going to do a reread, Godspeed. If you're not, you've got until the 19th to read the first half, and then a week to read the second half of book 5. Quite a few pages in this one. It is a pretty hefty book. DCC all aboard. Katie is trying to get me to start reading it. Brush Kid, do it. It's a really good book. 720 pages. Chonk. Yeah. Get all the Team Donut holes will get together. It'll be great. If you don't know what I'm talking about, read the book. Queen and Chonk. Oh, that was a bad typo, Katie Dubs. Glurp, glurp. Nice. I'm not going to reread, but I'm definitely going to have to read a recap of book 4. We should put a recap of book 4, or all the books even, when we change over the channels. If you need a Discord, let's go. My sister has passed us and has finished all the books that are out. Apparently, we're getting a book out for the end of this year. If you're in Matt Dinneman's Dungeon Crawler Carl Patreon, he actually publishes and gives you chapters to read before it is published. I think he's up to like 72. I have not read any yet. I want to eventually one day just sit down and read everything that's been put out. You get it for $5 a month. That's great. I do want to support him in that way. But yeah, Dungeon Crawler Carl for the next month. We're going full steam ahead with that one. No bonus book, but if you do want to read or listen to Blue Graffiti by Callahan Skogman, I'm going to be interviewing him this time next week, 5 p.m. PT. We're locked in for that. It'll be a 1-hour Q&A talking about his debut novel, what it was like being a fictional character and then writing a fictional book, influences, all that fun stuff. So join us in a week's time for that one. If you do want the schedule, check out the Discord. It'll be in there. For October, we're doing Nosferatu. We're going to do a spoopy book. I'm threatening to get everyone to read book 2 of Akatar series as a joke, but not really. Why not? Do it. I know. I really want to. I just listened to them all at the beginning of the year. I went way back into that one. I want a Throne of Glass re-listen soon. It's been like 2 years.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Now get out there and read, says Toaster Poster. Oh, God, they're so fun. Joe Bunt Rock says, my wife's currently on book 2. I love it. I love them so much. It's, the fact that it's all the same person as well. Like, what? Do it. It's a good one. I'm excited to read Nosferatu, says Mira. What do we got for December? We're going back into Red Rising and reading Lightbringer.